So there are 7 teams ahead of the Las Vegas Raiders that could potentially go and grab a quarterback this year. We're going to talk about that a little bit today because, to be honest, I don't see how the Raiders are going to get a quarterback in the draft this year. We're just too far behind, and it is a quarterback-hungry frenzy of a draft this year. There are some good quarterbacks in the draft. There are a couple of great quarterbacks in the draft, i.e. Jaden Daniels and probably Caleb Williams. But I got to tell you, I don't see how the Raiders move up and grab either one of those guys, or even a Drake May, or even a Michael Penix Jr., or a JJ McCarthy. The only option may be a Bo Nix, but when I'm looking at the draft board, I don't see how even Bo Nix makes it out of the first round. It is lining up to be probably one of the heaviest top 10 quarterback drafts in the history of the NFL. If we look at it, the Raiders are at pick number 13. We know that the Chicago Bears are moving on from Justin Fields. They have to draft a guy. It's probably going to be Caleb Williams. We know that the Washington Commanders are going to draft Jaden Daniels. We know that the Patriots moved on from Mac Jones. They absolutely have to draft someone, and it will probably be a Drake May. After that, you have the Arizona Cardinals, who are not going to draft anybody. And then the Los Angeles Chargers, who already have Justin Herbert. But this is where it starts to get wild. Is the New York Giants going to draft a quarterback or not? Are they going to stick with Daniel Jones? The question is up in the air. And if a good quarterback is sitting there at pick number 6, like a Michael Penix Jr., I think that they probably would go ahead and draft him just to make sure that if Daniel Jones isn't going to be the guy, if he can't get it done this year, you move on from him. You shop him at the end of next year. You let Michael Penix sit for a year, and then you start Michael Penix Jr. And so that right there is already taken the best quarterbacks off of the board. But remember, we also have the Minnesota Vikings, who are going to need a quarterback. And just because Atlanta grabbed Kirk Cousins does not mean that they're not going to draft a quarterback, because Kirk Cousins is 35 years old, coming off an Achilles tear, and the next guy that they have on the roster, their backup's 31. They don't have anybody else. So it's quite likely that they could take a Bo Nix just to sit him, because they know that they're not going to have an option of a quarterback later on in the draft. All the quarterbacks are going to be gone by the next time that they pick. And Minnesota is making moves. They're trying to move up and grab a guy. That's why they traded with Houston to grab Houston's number 23 overall pick. So now they have the number 11 and the number 23 that they can use as leverage to try and move up into the top 3. But I don't know if they're even going to be able to do it. Not to mention the fact that we have the Denver Broncos, who don't have a quarterback. So it's looking like at this point, Raider Nation, that we're pretty much at the back of the line. We're in the back of the bus, man. We're not getting a quarterback in the draft. I was hopeful that the Patriots would stick with Mac Jones for one more year and not go for a quarterback. They have too many other holes that they need to fill, but they didn't do that. They traded him, and that took our only potential trade partner. And it doesn't look like the Raiders are even going to try and trade up at this point, because what's the point of it? Let's say we are able to trade with New York. New York's going to stick with Daniel Jones, and we traded number 6. Who's left at number 6? Who are we going to get? We're going to give up first-round draft picks in the future to grab who? A JJ McCarthy? Maybe a Michael Penix Jr.? I'm not sure. And besides all that, it looks like Minnesota is going to try and do that. So they're going to beat us to the punch. So I have to be honest with you guys. I hate to be a downer, but it's not looking good for the Raiders in the quarterback position. We have Aiden O'Connell, who I believe has the potential to be a good starting quarterback in the NFL. I don't believe all the naysayers who say that he's only going to be a backup quarterback. if you're going to say that, then you have to say the same thing about Gardner Minshew, because that's all he's been in his entire career. And I know everybody's on the Minshew mania right now, and I'm glad that he's on the team because we need a good backup quarterback, but I don't see that Minshew is superior to AOC, and I don't see AOC as being superior to him. I think they're pretty much on the same level right now. And that's a pretty scary proposition to be in, because if we don't have that superstar quarterback or even the potential of one, I don't know how far we make it. Remember, the Baltimore Ravens have Lamar Jackson, and they have a pretty darn good team, and they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. Lamar Jackson was the MVP of the league. The dude had an outstanding year last year. What are we doing? Guys, I think we have to prepare ourselves, and as much as I hate to say it, I think we have to prepare ourselves that we are going to enter this season with AOC as the starting quarterback or Gardner Minshew, and the offense is not going to be spectacular. The defense is going to be phenomenal, and that's the way it's shaping up. I believe that the defense is going to be top 3 in the NFL, but we could be bottom of the barrel offense yet again this year. We let Josh Jacobs walk, and let's be honest, if Josh Jacobs wasn't hurt the final four games of the season, he was going to be 1,200 yard rusher yet again in his career. He is better than Zamir White, but Zamir White came on and filled his shoes quite well at the end of the season, and I'm happy about that. But Zamir White has not carried the load for 17 weeks like he's going to be required to this year, so we don't know what his durability is going to be either. And in the NFL, quarterbacks get hurt. It happens. And running backs get hurt. And so we're going into this season with 2 backup quarterbacks and a backup running back. And we're excited for what? How far are we going to get with backups in the 2 key positions of our offense? That's what worries me about what's happening right now. It's why it worries me that we did not try at all for Russell Wilson, who put all of his antics off the field aside, the fact that he wanted his own office in Denver. Okay, you just simply be a leader and tell him, no, you're not special above anybody else just because you're Russell Wilson. Those types of things I think Antonio Pierce could have handled. To be honest, I'm not sure that it was Antonio Pierce that didn't want Russell Wilson and more of a Tom Telesco. It may be a combination of both. I'm not sure. I don't have an inside track on that. But I'm worried that at this point, we are not making the right moves on the offense. We made a fantastic move on defense. But I'm not sure where we're at on the offense. And I'm not sure that we're going to be better on the offense this year. In fact, I'm worried that we're going to be worse. And that's a scary proposition because I believe in Antonio Pierce as the leader of this team. And if he doesn't have the weapons to be successful as the head coach, i.e. scoring a lot of points, which is going to be necessary, particularly in the AFC West, we'll dominate the Broncos. They've only gotten worse. And I would argue that the Chargers have gotten worse. And so we may sweep both of those teams. But remember, guys, we got to beat the Super Bowl champs who are on a mission to three-peat. If we can't do that, I'm not sure where we end up. But I sure would like to know what your guys' thoughts on this are. Who do you think is going to be the starting quarterback? Do you think Gardner Minshew is the guy? Do you believe in the Minshew mania that he could be the face of the franchise for the Raiders? Or do you believe in AOC? Or are we going to go and grab Justin Fields? Because at this point, we already know it's leaked out that we tried to trade for Justin Fields and that we're still interested in Justin Fields. And it looks like it's the only option that we really have left at this point. I think the 3 of them competing for the starting position is a good thing, but I'm not sure that any 3 of them are going to lead us to the Super Bowl at this point. I do think that Justin Fields has a higher upside than both of our quarterbacks that are on the team right now, but I also think that Justin Fields gets hurt and he also struggles sometimes with reading defenses. But if he can improve upon that, he is certainly more athletic and more gifted and a better arm than both of our quarterbacks on our team at this point. Would love to know your guys' thoughts on it. I also like to thank today's sponsor of the channel, and that is Earth Elixir. Much appreciation to them for believing in the Raider D podcast and all of you. So go and check out what they have to offer. All natural supplements, no fluff, no muss. You get what you pay for. And you're going to save 15% because they give a 15% code just for the Raider D family.